E rā te ia te akunu ia e Yehova, kia reka tātou, e kia perepere kāwana. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. May I ask us first to begin this milestone, powerful moment in the history of our region with a moment of presence and reflection to honor our Pāmetua, the founding fathers of regionalism, whose vision shaped the foundation and the highest heights of the building you are in today. Their faces surround us. Their legacy is what brings us here today. They shape the journey of our Blue Pacific history within and beyond these walls. Let us take a moment of silence to reflect and honor their memory, even as our leaders here today in this very space just moments ago have sealed and set a new course, a new regional journey and direction for our Blue Pacific. Colleagues and members of the media, kia orana, Nisambula Vinaka, warm Pacific greetings. Welcome to this, the press conference of the 51st Pacific Islands Forum. Joining us today is the Forum Troika of the Pacific Islands Forum in 2022. Our chair, the Prime Minister of Fiji, Honourable Josiah Vorenge Bainimarama, Nisambula Vinaka. Whakataalofa ki a koe the Honourable Simon Kofe, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Tuvalu, e kia orana ki a koe, the Special Envoy of the Cook Islands Prime Minister to this forum, Mr. Peru Herman. Leading our Secretariat team, we are joined by the Pacific Islands Forum Secretary General, Henry Puna. I will now hand over to the Secretary General for some brief welcome remarks before we hear from our Forum Chair and colleague leaders.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, members of the media. And thank you so much for joining us this late afternoon. I know that you'd rather be somewhere else next door, particularly where the drinks are starting to flow. But I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here. We have a long story to share with you, a very important story, as you would have seen in the launching of the 2050 strategy. That was a major occasion. But it's not just that. I mean, today we're celebrating 50 years of regionalism. And it's a real special feeling being in this room and being surrounded by our founding fathers up on the wall, in front and behind you. And so it is in that spirit that the Forum Chair and I and members of Troika are happy and willing to answer any questions that you might have. But first, the Forum Chair has a statement to make, and we'll have to excuse him because he has to be somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, bula vinaka to you all. We have just concluded the 51st Pacific Island Forum Leaders Retreat, and I'm pleased to confirm that we have anonymously endorsed the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent. Fiji assumed the chair of the Pacific Islands Forum in August 2021, and with it, the leadership of the political dialogue mechanism between the Micronesian Presidents Summit and the Pacific Islands Forum that was established to explore a resolution to the withdrawal of our Micronesian sisters and brothers. Today, 11 months following Fiji's assumption of this role, I am pleased to announce that we are making positive strides towards restoring the solidarity of our Forum family. Indeed, unity was the overriding focus on our discussions today, together with the 2050 strategy and the review of the regional architecture. Reflecting on 50 years of regionalism this morning, I and my colleague forum leaders recognize that we are in unprecedented times, and this collective is at a critical juncture in its history. As we face down a multitude of complex challenges across the region, we recognize our strength in numbers. It is without doubt that we stand our best chance to address these common challenges together as a family. In turning to the 2050 strategy, leaders recognize that political will and leadership will be integral to the achievement of our vision as outlined in the 2050 strategy. The strategy will be our overarching blueprint to advance Pacific regionalism for the next 3 decades. In the coming weeks, our officials will begin work on an implementation plan for this visionary political commitment. We also discussed today the position taken by the government of the Republic of Kiribati. I had the pleasure of speaking with President Mamao this afternoon. I have wished him and his people a wonderful National Day and reaffirmed with him our collective agreement to continue to dialogue with Kiribati to find a resolution to this impasse. I will continue to work in the coming weeks and months together with the forum leaders and the Secretary General on this matter. We will spare no efforts in this regard. I'm pleased to confirm that we have reached a resolution on the withdrawal of our other Micronesian family members, which is now entitled the Suva Agreement. 17 of our former forum leaders have signed this document, and we are now transitioning into the openization phase. I thank all members for their support throughout this process. I would like to thank in particular Secretary General Henry Puna and Prime Minister Mark Brown and the government of the Cook Islands for their efforts to work with us to continue to hold the solidarity of our forum family. I also thank Prime Minister Mataf of Samoa and Prime Minister Brown for joining me in Suva to meet with the Micronesian presidents in early June. This meeting resulted in a proposal for the way forward as outlined in the Suva Agreement. I also acknowledge, in particular, the Government of Australia for its support in this process. The success of these discussions has been based on the possibility of in-person discussions in Talanoa in our own Pacific way. Leaders also considered and endorsed decisions relating to climate action and nuclear issues, and noted updates on the regional fisheries developments in the Forum Ministerial Committee to New Caledonia. I would now like to speak in my capacity as the Fijian Prime Minister. Throughout every meeting and discussion I've held this week, I've been clear and consistent in our ask for more ambitious climate commitments. We simply cannot settle for anything less than the survival of every Pacific Island country, and that requires that all high-emitting economies implement science-based plans to decisively reduce emissions in line with the Paris Agreement 1.5-degree temperature threshold. That requires that we halve global emissions by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions by no later than 2050. Most urgently, it requires that we end our fossil fuel addiction, including coal. That is our ask of Australia, that is our ask of New Zealand, the USA, India, the European Union, China, and every other high-emitting country. It is also what Fiji asks of ourselves through our emissions, though our emissions are negligible. The world faces a global energy crisis. We feel it in Fiji as well, and while I understand this moment's political realities, planetary realities must take precedence. It will take courage and surely extract some political capital, but if Pacific Island countries can respond to and rebuild after some of the worst storms to ever make landfall in the history, advanced economies can surely make the transition to renewables. The benefits will be remarkable. Our region has the potential to become a clean energy superpower if we summon the will to make it happen. The path is no doubt the surest way to an open, resilient, independent, and prosperous Blue Pacific. I was proud to serve as the president of COP23, which was held in Bonn, Germany. I would love to see a COP come to the Pacific. So I will say, COP negotiations are defined far more by what they produce than what they are held, and where they are held. What matters most to us is that we secure bold commitments from all countries by COP27 to phase out coal and other fossil fuels, step up finance to adapt the most vulnerable nations, and advance causes like loss and damage that matter dearly to the most at-risk island communities. And to the members of the media with us, I understand that there is an important conversation to have on the agendas of the larger countries that make power plays in the Pacific. We fully appreciate your interest in this topic. I only hope that it does not come at the expense of the far more serious threat to our region brought by climate change. We are all in this together. All of our people are threatened, and all nations must be part of the solutions. With that, may I take this time to acknowledge all my colleague leaders who made it to Suva for this meeting. And I thank you. God bless you all.
All right, thank you. I'm here because Tuvalu previously hosted the last forum in 2019, and so as a part of the Troika grouping, we're here to support the chair. I think the chair has highlighted some of the key areas that we discussed and agreed to in the meeting today. I just wanted to, first of all, take the time to thank the chair and the government of Fiji and the people of Fiji for the exceptional arrangements and the very warm hospitality and extended to the leaders and to the delegates. We understand that the climate change is the key issue for the Pacific, and I understand it's been a very challenging time for us, understanding the geopolitics in the region, and I guess to understand taking the attention away from some of these core issues. But I just wanted to say that the leaders today were united in their position. I think there is strong solidarity on issues that are affecting the region, and I think the launch of the 2050 strategy is an example of the Pacific really defining the future that we want for the peoples of the Pacific. I'm also wearing the hat of the chair of the Small Island States grouping within the forum, and the leaders also considered some of the issues that the Small Island States discussed and agreed on. In particular, the Vanuatu initiative on asking or seeking legal opinion from the ICJ. That was an issue that was supported. Tuvalu's initiative on statehood, which was also important as we look at the future of small island states. As we know, they're at the forefront of the impacts of climate change. As scientists are saying that within 50 to 100 years, some of these countries may not be around. And so it was important for the Small Island States group to really advocate for the importance of preserving our statehood in the face of climate change. The Small Island States leaders also noted the unique position that Small Island States are as vulnerable states, the need to ensure that there is financing to provide for the protection and preservation of our countries. I think those were the key issues other than those raised by the Prime Minister of Fiji. On the issue of climate change, I think we've really come a long way on that. I can say that there was no real debate or arguments around this issue of climate change. I think all the leaders recognize that it is an existential threat. and that is reflected in the language in the communique that you will receive shortly. So having said that, thank you very much.
Me te mata, Lisa, and good evening, everyone. Can I join with colleagues up the front here to extend warmest and deepest gratitude to the Prime Minister of Fiji and Chair of the Pacific Islands Forum, and in particular to the people of Fiji who have truly epitomized our community and family cultural practices of welcoming and pulling us together in unity. It really has been a huge honor to have been part of that hospitality over the last, not week, for officials, 2 weeks. Can I acknowledge the leaders who gathered in this room earlier today to focus their thoughts and to articulate our forward regional development agenda, which is the 2050 strategy that was launched just now. Can I acknowledge the Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, Henry Puna? Sir, you have conducted yourself in a dignified manner befitting of a Pacific statesman. You have our respect, and you have our support, and you have our love. Can I acknowledge your hardworking staff, who I don't doubt haven't slept, not for 2 weeks, possibly for a month. Your efforts are appreciated, your service is always valued. And in the same vein, I acknowledge the crop agencies. Our regional community is more than the Pacific Islands Forum. It is our crop agencies, it is SPC, it is for the Forum Fisheries Agency, it is PREP, it is a very large community, all geared towards supporting the people of the Pacific. And last but certainly not least, can I acknowledge the Forum officials. These are the officials from foreign ministries, from environment ministries, from a raft of other agencies at national level who do the technical work, who do the policy work that allows recommendations to flow upwards towards leaders for their consideration. Your efforts are acknowledged, they are appreciated, and more efforts will be needed. Excuse me, now that leaders have articulated the 2050 strategy. The theme that Fiji chose for this, the 50th year of our existence, is review, reflect, and celebration. And being within the four walls of this room, I think really centered leaders in terms of what are the most pressing issues confronting our people today and into the future, harnessing the wisdom and standing on the shoulders of the leaders that have gone before, and then being inspired by the children we have interacted with over the last 3 to 4 days. We are extremely humbled, the Cook Islands, and I speak on behalf of the Honourable Mark Brown, Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Immigration of the Cook Islands, who without our general election on the 1st of August would have absolutely been here in person to participate. He was here on the 6th to the 8th of June when we converged a refreshed consensus on unity led by the Prime Minister of Fiji and involving our leaders from Micronesia, as well as the Prime Minister Brown and the Prime Minister of Samoa. He, our government, and people are extremely humbled at the confidence and the support that leaders have bestowed upon us as the incoming chair of the Pacific Islands Forum. We have big shoes to fill in Fiji, but we know we will not be alone in that undertaking. We will have Fiji, we will have Tuvalu as the most recent before Fiji chair, and we will have the full forum membership. On Kiribati, as you heard, we all remain at the ready to fully re-engage at a time when it suits Kiribati. If I may, just 2 points. If I may just take the incoming forum chair hat off and put the Cook Islands hat on in terms of the issues that we think in 2050 implementation is going to be really important. Our oceans resources. I think we are not only large ocean island states, we are the ocean. The Cook Islands is 99% ocean. Our security, our survival, our prosperity is within the ocean. Let us draw inspiration from the ideas of our children about the kind of technologies and possibilities that exist. Let us continue to invest and trust the science, but let us also be courageous that our stewardship legacy as a region, we epitomize stewardship, but we have to feed our people, and the ocean will allow us to do that. Our deep sea minerals, let's back ourselves. Through SPC, through the International Seabed Authority, we have done extensive research. Absolutely more is needed, but we have to be able to do that research so we can collect the data and continue to make science-based policy decisions. The other one, I think, which is in the 2050 strategy that leaders spoke at length about, is the importance of financial sovereignty. We engaged with our multilateral financial institutions earlier this week. We received presentations on the kind of modalities, the kind of support they are able to offer the Pacific. For the Cook Islands, it sounded like business as usual. Business as usual is not going to help the Pacific recover from COVID. It is not going to help with the challenges that we are confronted with. Existential climate change, COVID, and economic isolation. Just before COVID, the Cook Islands graduated to high-level income country. Palau followed very shortly after. We are now well below high-level income country, and yet the criteria for us to try to access help refuses that access because we are high-level income country. So from the Cook Islands perspective, these are the challenges and the issues that we have to find collective solutions together. We are absolutely rules-based in terms of the multilateral system, but if that multilateral system is flawed, we have to go to those rules. We have to change those rules so they allow us to support the ability of governments to provide for our people. And just one final thing, if you will indulge me, it is the huge honor of the government of the Cook Islands to make known and lend our full support to the candidature of Dr. Lara Manarangi-Trott, who is sitting on the right here. She is a proud Cook Islander who has been a regional servant for pushing 2 decades. She works for the Western Central Pacific Fisheries Commission. This is an intergovernmental regional fisheries management organization established in 2004. The membership of that organization comprises the 26 members of the Forum Fisheries Agency, as well as a number of our dialogue partners, including the EU, France, Indonesia, Korea, Japan, Philippines. Leaders acknowledge the importance of fisheries. We are very proud to put forward her candidature as a extremely qualified, experienced, and enthusiastic Cook Islands woman who has served diligently in the interests of the region's fisheries resources, and we look forward to working closely with our region to once more put forward a highly capable servant of the Pacific. Thank you very much.
Question Edom from Reuters. Thank you for that explanation of what was discussed in the Leaders' Retreat and the work that went into the communique. And I must apologise for my first question because I will ask about some of those geopolitical issues that have, threatened to overshadow the Pacific Island Forum this week. I noticed in the draft communique at 24, leaders are reaffirming the importance of utilising existing regional mechanisms, including PIF, for engaging with partners on a multilateral basis, while still being respectful of the sovereign rights of countries to engage with partners that they consider appropriate. Is the shorthand of this that that is saying that PIF should be the peak regional body and perhaps offers from other partners for half the forum, for example, to sign trade and security deals should not be going ahead. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think I'll answer the question. Look, leaders acknowledge the sovereignty of each member country, to determine its own arrangements, and there is no doubt in that, nor is there any confusion. However, leaders also acknowledge that there are certain issues, that have impacts beyond national borders. Mm-hmm. And it is those issues that leaders are asking each member country, to share with the others when they decide to enter into arrangements that are exclusively within their national sovereignty. Yes, and leaders have, freely acknowledged that that is the way to go. But of course, there are times when other issues or other considerations, enter the mix. For example, the geopolitical interest in the region. Most of our island states take the friends to all and enemy to none approach. And that is the best approach for us because, we can't afford to be enemies with anybody. And there are opportunities to be had, and there are advantages in having relationships with everybody. And that is acknowledged. There's no problems with that. However, certain issues like security, it does have regional impacts. And it is on those issues that leaders have asked each other, to share and to dialogue with the others so that, everybody knows what is happening and what might be impacting their own national borders. So it is in that spirit that that issue is addressed by the leaders.
Okay, but can I clarify? So, for example, a security agreement on a bilateral basis with a foreign partner, it would be better for that to be shared before that was entered into. But what about a multilateral agreement with another partner? For example, there is a China proposal to enter into an agreement with 10 of the partners. Is that the kind of agreement that would be covered?
There is a distinct difference with the approach that was taken by China through their foreign minister when they came here a couple of months ago. They came here with their own prepared outcomes document. And it was that our members reacted against. Because the thing is, if anybody knows what we want and what we need and what our priorities are, it's not other people, it's us. And so it was on that basis that, the region did not accept that approach. And I'm sure you'll agree that has to be the way.
And that was the consensus this week amongst all members?
Indeed. Indeed.
Thank you.
Mr. Puna, Rashika from Fiji Village. Just asking, sir, what was in that outcome document that the countries were against?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sorry, sir. Rashika from Fiji Village. Just asking, sir, what was in that outcome document that the member countries were against?
Sorry, if I might just ask for clarification, which outcome document? The forum communique of today or?
Sorry, sir. This is the prepared document that came from China.
Oh, well, I can only speak for the Cook Islands. The Cook Islands are, you heard on the video in the conference room, the proposal to establish this august political body was one made by our founding father, Albert Henry. We've taken 50 years to develop processes to converge regional consensus. And as relate to how we interact with partners from beyond the Pacific, those processes, if it is a regional or multilateral arrangement being proposed, require first and foremost for us to get amongst ourselves and have a conversation about what it is that we agree as a region, we will engage with another partner. So the problem for the Cook Islands was the process. We had a short lead time notice of the meeting, and the process did not allow for us to have that prior regional conversation. Can I actually suggest we push on from this topic and focus on what we decided today in the forum communique and hear some questions about what's in that document?
Yeah, can I just add one point to that special envoy of the Prime Minister of the Cooks? You know, when we talk about security, the specific meaning or definition of security is not restricted to the normal military sort of type security. No. Under the Bowie Declaration, you know, our leaders have expanded the meaning of security in the Pacific context. And, you know, it includes things like, you know, the pandemic, oceans, transnational crime, health, you know, all those issues, and climate change, of course. And they acknowledge that this is the greatest existential threat to the Pacific. So, you know, I think sometimes when we talk about security, we tend to sort of think in the old traditional way. It is not that for the Pacific. We have an expanded concept of security.
Mr. Puna, this is Vanshika Kumar from the Fiji Times. Was the Fijian government's decision to withhold the grant for the University of the South Pacific something discussed during the meeting?
You should have asked the forum chair that when he was there. No, it was not raised during the retreat.
And so there are reports that there were two Chinese officials that had to be removed from the meeting during the announcement by the US Vice President yesterday. So what is your comments on that? And is the forum taking actions against them?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't at that dialogue yesterday, so I'm not aware of it, so I can't answer now.
Is this on? Can I ask a climate question? In the draft communique, it commends Vanuatu for pushing for the UN General Assembly to request an International Court of Justice, not a ruling, but a decision, advisory opinion. But it leaves it open what the question would be. Is that because the forum was unable to agree to the strength of the language in what the question should be?
No, nothing to do with that, no. The reality is that, you know, some experts are still, you know, couching the question, and that question will be put back to the leaders for us to have a look at and to approve. So, no, nothing to do with what you're suggesting. Yeah.
Chair, thank you. I would just add that the leaders have agreed on that pathway to seek an advisory opinion from the ICJ. In relation to the question, officials will meet and discuss to formulate the question. So that's something that obviously we did not have time at this meeting to discuss.
Okay, now I only ask because Prime Minister Albanese had said until we see the wording, it's not something that we can sign up to. That's the reason for the question.
Hi, I'm Madison Connaughton from Agence France Presse. Just to follow up on the ICJ advisory opinion, did Vanuatu in the meetings express any specific things that they would like to see in the question? Obviously, there are issues around harm and the obligations of states. Were those things discussed in the meeting, or was it just a very brief sort of mention? Thank you.
So much of the discussion was at the foreign ministers level last week, and it was agreed that the leaders also endorsed that we will follow that pathway. But the issue of the question was not discussed at all. But I think if you understand the nature of this is to seek an advisory opinion on the rights of countries and peoples that are affected by climate change.
And sorry, just to follow up, so the hope is still to bring the question to the UN General Assembly in September this year? That's the timeline that is still being held?
That's correct. So Vanuatu's intention is to target the next UNGA meeting, and so there will be meetings before that amongst the members to agree on the question. As you know, that countries will be at liberty to agree at that stage to vote when there is the voting on the resolution when it is raised before the UNGA.
You know, the Pacific is looking at all sorts of options in order to, to fight for our survival, because our leaders have agreed that, hey, we're in climate red. It's we're moving towards very close to tipping point, and unless we do something, it may be too late. And so, we've been to COP meetings, and we'll keep going to COP meetings. But, a lot of countries are still hanging on to their old ways and not changing. And so, the Pacific is looking at new ways to compel, particularly the big emitters, to do something and change their ways and make some firm commitments to climate change. That is why we have to look at all sorts of options. And this is one that Vanuatu has come up with, and it's agreed to by all the members of the forum.
Sorry, can I just jump in here and just acknowledge our young reporter from the Cook Islands, Tiana, who has come to Suva as part of one of the forum initiatives, which is to bring young, upcoming working in the media, and to do a bit of a masterclass, including being exposed to these meetings and being able to interact with leaders and be a part of and be able to report back to home country. Did you want to ask a question, Tiana? Great.
I had one question regarding something that I believe was discussed under the small island states meetings regarding the push for green, clean transport. And I understand that if this were something that would be implemented right away, it would have quite the economic and financial burden on the smaller island states. And I understand that would have been one of the topics discussed in that meeting. When that was then brought to the bigger forum meeting, what was the outcome? Was it something that the smaller island states were happy with?
Thanks very much, Tiana. I trust you to give us a question that we're looking around. Which initiative was that? There were a lot of initiatives explored. A number of them were country-sponsored. And in all honesty, I'm not too sure about this one. Which country? I think Palau. I think it might have been Palau, but if I just go by the title of it, Green-Free Transport, obviously that's something that we're all very, very keen to do as Pacific Island countries, and as the incoming chair, certainly it's going to be my recommendation to my government that in terms of transporting leaders around, that we explore perhaps transportation that won't emit as much, but sometimes these things are our geographical isolation from markets limits what we can do, but we'll have another look at it, and if it's something that can be supported, we certainly will.